Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This time I wanted to talk a little bit about why submit books to CGC or other slabbing companies. As you know, I use CGC because, I'm a hack for CGC obviously, or I'm just a hack because I like to invest in my own collection, whatever pick. But in this video I just want to talk a little bit about why would a collector even go that route or consider that route down the line. Now, I have a couple of reasons. Some of these are, I've said before, and some of them I have not said before, but I figure I would just create a video just dedicated to that. Now, touching up on some of the things I've said before when it comes to submitting to CGC or a slabbing company of your choice or whatever, I always choose CGC because, at least right now, I think it's probably the better or the best of the three that are out there, which includes CBCS and PGX. And I know there are others out there that say, well, CBCS, their grading is a little bit better than CGC. I can only speak from my experience, and from my experience, not just with from what I've seen with my own collection, from what I've seen in others ETA Nick made a video many years ago showing the difference between CGC and CBCS and what turned out to be the best according to his research. And back then, as it is now, I think CGC is the best of the three, and that's the one that gives me the most return. So now let's get to why submit. I think it excuse me, it goes back to the return. Most of us, enjoy this hobby very much. We like to acquire new books for many different reasons. We like the hunt. We like the cover. We like the first appearance. We like the story. It doesn't matter. Whether we're collectors or, people that are resellers, we obviously have a passion for this hobby. And I've found that as I've gotten older, that and even what I do right now, when it comes to selling a book, I've found more success when it's in a CGC slab. So I think probably this goes down to, I'll start with my first reason. I have three reasons. The collector in me, I guess with the first reason, likes the idea that the books are in the case with the grade on them. I've always liked that. When I first started collecting comics, I've told this story many times back in '93. I was impressed with, I think it was BCW that put out this little plastic shell where you could put your comic in as almost like a plastic frame, which they believe they still sell to this very day. I believe it was BCW. It could be something else. For all I know, BCW wasn't even around back then. But there were plenty of supply companies for comic books that put out these hard plastic frames that you could put your comic in and frame it on the wall. Regardless, it would give it some level of protection. And I saw that and I said to myself, wow, that's really cool. It would be really cool if they actually had a grade on it, like if someone were to grade it and the number would be there, so then you would know the condition of the book. It was a thought that I had back then. Now, I wasn't an entrepreneur like some others, but when I came back to the hobby and I saw things like that, I saw, oh my God, they actually went ahead and did that. That is so cool. So getting back to my first point here is I've always liked the idea of having something framed where it would be protected and the grade would be on it. Now, I know there are a lot of old timers out there that feel or said that, nope, you don't need that. You should be able to grade on your own. You don't need things like that. Well, look, I look at it this way. I liked it. Everybody's different. Not everybody adheres to the way you want things, just as way not everyone's going to adhere to the things I say in this video or the things I've said in previous videos about whatever. It's to each his own. And if you take a look at things over the last 20 plus years, 25 years, 26 years, however long CGC has been around these other companies, it's obviously taken off. Now, I know some people say, oh, CGC is a scam. Well, There's always people out there like that, you know. But I think CGC is here to stay. And I think a lot of people, with my first reason here, they like to have their books protected, like to submit because of that reason. All right. There are books that I'm going to still send to CGC for that reason alone. And I think that's the first reason why I do it. And maybe a reason some of you do it. My second reason, and like I said, I've said this in a previous video, I think it's good to have them in a slab with the grade, so there's no debate on what the grade is. Sure, you'll always have that guy or that person out there that says, oh, CGC, how could they have given it this grade? How could they have given it that grade? But people like to complain about everything. People complain about everything. People argue about everything. Fact of the matter is, once it's in the slab, that's it. And I argue this because, let's say if one day my wife or my son wanted to sell my collection, something happened to me, they have that. They don't really know too much. I'm schooling them on some things, but at least they could have the really, really important books in the slab, and that they know, okay, this is where I can go to sell them. They won't have to sell them. We are financially stable. It always sucks that for people that are not financially stable, that are forced to sell, and you're put between a rock and a hard place, and I can understand that. But if you are somebody like that and you have them in the slab, well, good. Good in that sense, because then you could go to maybe certain companies, certain places where you could sell, this is the grade. You're not going to deal with somebody that's trying to scam you out of your books. When you say, well, my husband wrote on the back of this, or whomever wrote on the back of this, it's a 7.0. I don't know if it's a 7.0. I don't think you could get a 7.0. And then that person being, like I said, between a rock and a hard place when it comes to finances, may be forced to, sell something that's really worth a lot more, So I think that's important. It's important to plan ahead. It's not ridiculous to plan ahead. And I've said in previous videos, you should invest when you're spending a certain amount of money on these books, unless you're very, very wealthy. And there are people out there that are very, very wealthy, that they have so much money they don't know what to do with. Most of us are not like that. There are people that are well off, but even people that are well off are not stupid, mostly when it comes to money. They won't just spend whatever. I mean, there are those that do, and that's, in my opinion, very careless. But even with those that do have money or are well off or better than well off, they're still kind of cautious with their money, So the point being, if you're buying these books that cost a lot of money, you shouldn't have that attitude like, I spent thousands on this, thousands on that. I don't care about that. That's careless. You should invest in your collection. And sometimes it's not just buying a particular book as an investment. You buy that book and you make sure that your investment is, for the most part, protected. And I think one of the reasons why you can protect that is having it in a slab. Now, sometimes the book value goes down, so there are some things you can't predict. But having it in a slab, I think, helps a lot. And for my final reason, I use CGC for the first two reasons that I mentioned, but also for this reason, and it kind of trickles into the first one a bit. I enjoy upgrading my collection. And I found the best way to get the most bang for my buck, and that's just my point of view, that's my experience. I know some other people have it different, see it differently, is to have it in a CGC slab. If I want to upgrade a book, it's good that I have my undercopy in a slab, so we know exactly what the grade is. We could use GPA or some other type of program that says the last sold at this grade goes for this, something to gauge with, so that you can have a starting point when it comes to a sales price, or give a little bit of a deal, something. Now, some people use that for raw books too, absolutely. But I've noticed that whenever I try to sell a raw book, there's argument. Not all the time. I've heard of argument. I've seen argument in the past with some people, and I've encountered a little bit. But like I was saying with the example number 2, my husband, he wrote a 7.0 on the back of this. Nah, this isn't a 7.0. This is more like a 5.5. Okay, maybe that person's right. Maybe I was right. But let's slab it. And let's see who's right. And then we work from there when it comes to the price. That's the way I look at it. So let me give you an example. I have 2 little examples, and then I'll close this video. And I want you to tell me what you think. I wanted to upgrade Shock Suspense Stories number 6. And I did. I upgraded to a nice 6.0. It's a good copy for me. I'm very happy with it. It's beautiful. And I had a much lower grade copy. All right. So I said to myself, for me to, me being financially smart, or take that for what it's worth, but at least trying to be financially smart, I said, well, I'm going to buy this 6.0, which costs a certain amount of money. I'm going to sell my undercopy to make up most of that money. And then, of course, I have to put a little bit of my own money in there because there's a big difference. I have a lower grade copy than this, so there's going to be a difference in price in what I have to put into it. But I want to sell mine, and I want to make sure I know exactly what the grade is. And I had it purposely graded for that. There was no way in hell I was going to have my lower grade copy, which turned out to be a 3.0. Even I thought it might have been a 2.5. And maybe someone else would have thought it 2.5. Probably someone maybe would have thought it was a 2.0. Who knows? But there was no way in hell I was going to sell that book raw. I wanted to see if it was actually a 2.5 or something better or even worse, so that I know what to sell that book for, so that no one is screwed in the end, the buyer or me, the seller. You know what I mean? And that's why I did it. Even if someone says, oh, I'll give you this amount for it. No, it has to be in the slab. I don't want anything. And plus, it's not just that, just to make sure there's no restoration on it, right? I would feel terrible if I sold a book to somebody and I say, well, I don't think there's restoration, or there's no restoration on it, and then it comes back restored. I would feel bad if I did that. So I don't want to do that. And that's another great reason to have it graded that I didn't mention in the first 2. It's sometimes there are people that are good at picking up restoration. You have the eye. But, I'm okay, but I'm not the best. And sometimes I have to rely on a company like CGC to help me with that, so that it not only helps books in my collection, but when I want to sell, it helps the buyer pick the right book out. It's not always about me. You know what I mean? It's not always about the seller trying to screw people over. I want to make sure that when you get a book from me, you're happy with it, you're confident about it, and all that. And that's why. I'll give you one more example. Now, this is a book right here, obviously a raw copy, of X-Men number 12. Now, this is a book that eventually, hopefully maybe by the end of the summer, I'm going to send off to CGC. I feel it's a 5.0. That's my opinion. So, me being on the upgrade kick, I probably will want something in the 6.5 to 7.5 range. 7.5 might be stretching it a bit, but I don't know. But in order for me to justify buying that 7.5 or 7.0, whatever it is, I have the money for it right now if I wanted. But I can't justify spending it until I get rid of this. So I want to have it graded, and I have to adjust what I spend on grading on this and the grade that it comes back, so that I could come up with a fair price to sell this to somebody that would want this book. Again, I think it's a 5.0. Maybe CGC thinks it's a 4.5. Maybe they think it's a 5.5. Don't know. But my point is, for me to upgrade to that next level, to climb that ladder, as I often talk about when it comes to upgrades, to get that better copy, that higher copy of X-Men 12, that has to go into the slab. I would never sell this raw. Because, a lot of resellers are like, oh, I'll give you this much. I'm not interested in selling it to a reseller. I want to sell it to somebody that would appreciate it, just as I appreciate it for almost 30 years. It's been in my collection for 28 years. Now, I know some people are like, oh, you're still selling it? Well, yeah. Why wouldn't I? I never got that. Like, oh, that's been in your collection for that long. Like I said at the beginning of this video, talking about some of the old timers, sometimes you have to change with the times. And sometimes, as I mentioned with this book here, sometimes you have to move on. You know, I've done that a lot with several books. Years ago, I thought I would never be able to do that. Oh, I could never get rid of this book, and I've gotten rid of those books. Like my X-Men 3, I had that since 1993, and I sold it I think a year or two ago. So it's been in my collection for, either 30 years or almost 30 years, and you let it go. And I thought that's what someone would say to me, you let it go? And I thought that, yeah, it might be hard to let that go. It's been with me through so much of my life. And it's as soon as I sold it, and the weeks afterwards, as time has gone on, I was like, well, I don't think about it. I just thought about it right now. And I don't miss it. I don't. Every time, I missed that 3.5 X-Men 3 I had. Yeah, well, the 6.5 copy I purchased in its stead makes me feel a lot better. And it also makes me feel a lot better that one day that 6.5 might become a 7.5. You never know. So that's why I submit to CGC. That's probably why some of you submit to CGC. But it'd be nice to know in the comments. Fill me in. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'll try to create more content on this channel, but I'm still going to do my pre-code video, but I got to wait for some books to come back from CGC because I want to put some of those in that video. In any event, take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.